Welcome back to the last Golden Eagle Sports Report of the year. Oh my God!
We've got all your Marquette athletic news coming up. Let's go. Hello and welcome to the final edition of Golden Eagle Sports Report for the spring semester. I'm Mike Cianciolo.
And I'm Sean Owens. We have some interesting and somewhat unexpected news from the Al McGuire Center. Vander Blue has decided to forego his last year of eligibility with Buzz Williams and the Golden Eagles. After 3 years with the team, Blue had his breakout year just this past season as a junior. Many saw Blue's first 2 years as average to below average before being the leading scorer for the Golden Eagles this past season. In response to the decision, Coach Williams said, "We will always be grateful for his contributions and wish him nothing but the best in his professional career." The draft is slated for Thursday, June 27th.
Taking a look back at what Vander Blue accomplished as a member of the Blue and Gold for 3 seasons, he started 80 games in 106 appearances. Blue played on 3 successful NCAA tournament teams, making back-to-back Sweet 16s his freshman and sophomore years, and advancing to the Elite 8 his junior year. Vander Blue leaves with 982 points scored, just shy of becoming the 45th player in school history to tally 1,000 career points.
Tonight, Marquette University Basketball is hosting its thank you banquet for fans and friends of the basketball team. Attendees will be able to mingle with the players and staff before the program officially starts at 6:30, when the awards will be handed out. Now we're going to toss it to our analysts for more on Marquette basketball.
It's been an interesting offseason, to say the least, for Marquette basketball. Here with us tonight is David Tukesbrey of WMUR and Jacob Born of the Marquette Tribune. Let's start off with the Madison native. Let's look into the crystal ball. What's Vander Blue's future hold?
Looking into the crystal ball, you ask how clear is his future going to be. It's probably as clear as my contacts are, or my vision is without my contacts.
Also pretty clear, huh?
Yeah, you would think. Not very clear at all, to be honest with you. I don't think he's going to get drafted. I don't know why he's leaving for the NBA. I don't even think he's going to get drafted. If you take a look at some of the best players that came into Marquette, Jacob, the last 10 years or so, Jerome McNeil, Marquette's all-time leading scorer, he went undrafted. Also, you take a look at Dominique James. He has better numbers statistically than Vander Blue, also undrafted. I don't see where Vander's coming here.
No, I agree. He's 77th on ESPN Insider's draft board. So it's not like he left because he was going to be a first rounder. I think he would have been great if he would have been able to stay here his senior year, developed his game a lot more, and then he could have been a late first rounder, an early second round draft pick. But now he's probably headed to the D League, or he might be going overseas. And I mean, he could, it'd be cool to play with DJO if he gets the chance. But, I mean, for him, if it were me, I would have definitely stayed here my senior year.
Yeah, I don't know if he has a passport or not, but he's probably going to have to get one ready because I don't think he's going to get drafted. He's probably going to go over to the D Leagues or play in Europe, as you said, Jacob. And, you know, if you take a look at his statistics, freshman year, not very good, really high expectations. Of course, he had those off-the-court issues. Sophomore year, about 8 points per game. Okay, decent. Last year, he kind of blows off the map, just under 14 points per game. Is that good enough to get paid $2-3 million in the NBA? I don't think so.
Yeah. That's very generous with the million right there. I mean, like, there's some games where he did not. I mean, for every USF game he had a game where he wasn't quite so stellar.
Well, sure. I mean, look at Syracuse. He only dropped in 6 points on, I believe, 3 of 10 shooting.
Exactly.
Yeah, not good enough to make it in the NBA.
All right. So from one guy leaving to another, we moved to Juan Anderson, who made a decision to leave Marquette for a future closer to home. He joins a list that consists of Jake Thomas and Jamal Ferguson. Marquette's losing a lot of guys. How can they recover? I mean, I know they got a great recruiting class coming in, but still.
No, yeah, you said it. It's the recruiting class. I mean, you got Juwan Johnson and Dwayne Wilson coming in here who are going to be able to make an impact right from the get-go. And then you have guys like Juan. I mean, Juan arguably could have started, but honestly, I feel like he would have been better on the bench and if we had Jamil Wilson starting. So you have guys like Jamil Wilson, you have Derek Wilson and Todd Mayo who are going to be able to step up, and they have the talent to do it. And I personally think that Buzz is a good enough coach to where they're going to make sure that the talent he has this year is going to make it work. He did it this year, and he's going to be able to do it next year.
Jacob, 5 guys coming in next year. 4 of them are 4-star recruits. I think you talked about Dwayne Wilson. You're going to have so many Wilsons on this team next year. It's going to be fun. You got the brothers Wilson, but no relation. But honestly, you're going to see players leave. I mean, we saw Jerron Mayman leave. We saw Yusafa Mbao leave. Reggie Smith. I mean, there's guys that just aren't Marquette program players. And to be honest, I take a look at these three guys that are leaving. Jake Thomas averaged 1.8 points per game. Remember that big three he had against Syracuse? Jake, we were talking about it before we even got on the air. His only 4 points in Big East play all season. You know, they just didn't have it all season, these three guys. Juan Anderson, he had, I believe, he played in 31 games. He didn't score 10 points or more, not even once. They're not losing a lot.
Well, it wouldn't be Marquette basketball if there was certainty about the upcoming season. Let's toss it to Mike in Studio 6.
Thanks, Denny. When we return, we're talking Marquette Lacrosse. Back here on Golden Eagle Sports Report, the men's soccer team participated in the Wisconsin Division I Spring Cup Saturday, April 13th. Marquette took on a pair of in-state foes in Green Bay and Wisconsin. Their first match of the day was against the Phoenix in a 70-minute contest featuring two 35-minute halves. Battling harsh weather conditions, neither side could score, and the game ended in a 0-0 tie. The Golden Eagles hosted the Badgers at Valley Fields for the second game of the day. MU in gold, UW in red. Here, Marquette will have an errant cross attempt go to the keeper, empty possession. Now Paul Dillon sending a lefty boot into the box, but again the Badgers goalie would get to it and punch the ball out of play. Now it's C. Norte with the flick at the top of the box, can't find the feet of Sebastian Janssen, and a scoring play comes up empty. Badgers with a free kick, and the outside of the foot shot goes straight to the hands of Charlie Lyon for an MU save. Another chance for MU to score off the corner kick. It finds its way to Wisconsin's keeper. The Golden Eagles would finish the game scoreless and surrender a goal to the Badgers as they lose the contest 1-0. They conclude Spring Cup play 0-1-1.
Although the main season for volleyball is in the fall, there is still a spring season to prep for summer workouts and the fall season. In the Al McGuire Center, where Marquette wrapped up their spring season against visiting Northwestern, the Wildcats, you see Julie Jezorowski and Lindsay Gosch leading the huddle there. First set now, Northwestern with the serve. Rachel Steer is going to dig that to Koberstein, who finds freshman Megan Neiman for the kill. Kat Meyer now with the serve for the Golden Eagles, gets it over the net. Kat Meyer gets the dig, and Lindsay, oh my gosh, with the kill. Now, Northwestern passing the ball on the offensive. Kat Meyer with a swat. Julie Jezorowski with the dig. Ball goes over the net back to Northwestern, who has a cross hit blocked. Koberstein with the set, and again the lefty hammer with the kill. Final point for the match for Marquette. Northwestern with the serve. Doug passed, set, and Northwestern with the dig. They go for the cross-court kill, but it is blocked by Gosch. And that would do it for Marquette as they win 3-1. Now we'll toss it to Bon Szymanski, who talks about the spring season and its success.
Well, it's important for our program that we win in the spring, and that's something that we need to build on, that kind of momentum. I've always said I've never seen a good spring turn into a terrible fall, but I've seen terrible springs turn into a terrible fall. So it's important we had a good spring. We competed against a lot of top-notch teams, and I thought there was a culmination tonight of improvement. You know, watching our young freshman middles really grow up this spring was important. We're going to need them. Watching, Lindsay Gosch move to the right side, seeing what she can do, but then just that anchor in the back row for us, that senior leadership that we have out of those three back row players and Biskey as our setter and captain out there on the court. A lot of good stuff for us, and so I feel like as a program we've kind of brought the bottom up. Our worst day is no longer awful, and when I first got here our worst day sometimes was awful, and so it's really kind of shifted the paradigm of our ability to play at a high level. So it was a good finish for us tonight.
William Kowick continues to shine for the men's track and field team this week. He set the Marquette program record in the hammer throw with a top distance of 193 feet 7 inches, done on his first throw. Kowick ousts the old record by over a meter and stands on top with a mark of 59.01 meters. Marquette's men's lacrosse team came into Saturday's matchup with High Point at 2-6, riding a 4-game losing streak.
Taking on the Panthers in North Carolina, MU's fortune changed. The game was close for the first half of the contest, but Marquette pulled away in the second half, outscoring their opponents 9-3.
Golden Eagle player Connor Gately posted a game-high total of 4 goals. His teammate Tyler Melnick tallied a hat trick and assisted on 2 goals, MU won it 14-6. Talking about his players buying into his game plan is head coach Joe Amplo.
It's the first time all season that I think the guys truly bought into the game plan and had that sense that if they did buy into the game plan that they would be successful. In our previous victories, not that we didn't buy in completely, I just think that we were too young and too inexperienced, and there was a lot more luck involved to those victories. This one was truly a team victory from top to bottom. I thought our scout team all week prepared us very well. The coaching staff did a great job with the preparation of their specific duties, and then the guys who played on Saturday executed what we had worked on all week.
Men's lacrosse will host the program's first home game this Saturday at 7 p.m. They take on Detroit Mercy at Hart Park in Wauwatosa. The Titans are 2-8 this season. Marquette will look to improve to 4-6 and win their first ever home game. Moving on to the women's side, their squad has seen more contests but similar results.
The upcoming highlight takes us to the turf of Valley Fields, where Marquette takes on the Hoyas of Georgetown. Early action, the 8th-ranked Georgetown Hoyas and Marquette at Valley Fields. The Hoyas have the ball behind the net here. It's a dangerous position if you're on the offensive. Megan Marinelli will swoop in from behind the net and score on Sarah Priam. Moving on, the Hoyas with the ball again, and this time Dina Jackson takes a one-timer of sorts, throws a zinger past Priam. Now the Golden Eagles on the offensive. When there's a foul, Elizabeth Gosley had the ball. She was attempting to shoot. On the ensuing penalty shot, she scores. Does a little jig of her own there while waiting for the face-off. Marquette now with the ball heading in on the same goal. Freshman Emma Kern goes bar DC. That's barred down in layman's term. But here's a familiar sight as the Hoyas have the ball one more time. Sophia Thomas rips a top-tier shot on the net for a goal for the Hoyas. Final score 13-7 in favor of Georgetown. The Golden Eagles certainly hurting in their first season.
I thought we played great. I think we started out just a little nervous, which they got us down in a couple of goals, but we played great. I think our defense had some huge stops. Sarah Prima had some great saves, and then we were able to control the possession a little bit on attack, which was what our goal was going into the game. We were able to do that when we did get it down there. So, I know the scoreboard doesn't give us a win, but we definitely played well for our team.
On Sunday, women's lacrosse battled 17th-ranked Loyola Maryland at the Valley. It was senior night for the Lady Golden Eagles, honoring Lisa Beltramello, Katie Bathen, and Jacqueline Dubois. Joanna Dalton scores there for the Greyhounds off the free shot, and then it is Marley Patton who makes it a 3-0 game for Loyola. Then number 22, Allie Habich scores another Greyhounds goal, 10-1 Marquette down. A free position shot for Catherine Geiger, and she makes it a 10-goal game. Sandra Caruso, actually that would be MU's freshman Kenzie Brown scoring the first goal of the night on senior night for Marquette. Then on the charge again, fellow freshman Claire Costanza scores the final Golden Eagle goal unassisted. And just 3 seconds before the final whistle would blow, Loyola scores their 17th and final goal as Marquette falls to the Greyhounds 17-2 on senior night. Reflecting on the game is midfielder Katie Bathen.
I think we could have done a lot better. I think we came out a little bit scared, a little bit on our heels, which Loyola took complete advantage of, especially with fast breaks in the first half. But I think we came back in the second half. The score would have been 4-1, just the second half alone. So I think we worked a lot better in the second half, talking to each other. Some people definitely stepped up in the second half. Emma Salter came in goal and had some huge saves for us. Alex Winey transitioned the ball for us. Great. She did awesome coming off the bench. So I think the second half we did a lot better. We just need to be more consistent with our play.
You just heard from Katie Bathen of Marquette Women's Lacrosse. Obviously, a lot of news on the Marquette Lacrosse front. Here to put it in perspective, David Tukesbrey and Jacob Born. Guys, on the men's side, they got a big win versus High Point. What do they got to do to make sure that this just isn't a fluke?
This was a big win, Denny, and I think they really have to continue to build this thing. Of course, they're 3-6, but I think, to be honest, they really need to continue to build through their big three. These three players have been pillars of consistency for this team all year, and yeah, they've played 9 games. They've only won 3 of them, but, you take a look at this this roster right now, Tyler Melnick, 16 goals, 11 assists. That's good for 27 points. And then you also look at Kyle Whitlow, shameless plug here. Well, not shameless, but Mark Freund, our producer and director, did a fantastic piece on him on the Diedrich Ideas show. Stay tuned for that, hopefully on Time Warner Sports. And no question about it, I think you got to look at one guy that really impresses me is Connor Gately. 11 assists, 15 assists, 26 points. The offense really flows through him. But to be honest with this team right now, they really need to play smart. They're an aggressive team. They need to play smart because they've fouled their opponents 34 times this season. On the other side of the coin, the defense, they've only fouled Marquette 21 times, so they need to play a little smarter.
Yeah, exactly. You touched on it. They need to build on what they're doing right. And right now, what they're doing right is face-offs, and their goalie play has been outstanding. J.J. Sagal has been absolutely fantastic. And they've also really excelled in their man when they've had a man up. They're at 500% when they are on the power play. So that is fantastic for them. What they need to do is get more consistent offensive production, because when they're good, they are good. And it's really tough to kind of judge them when there isn't really those home games to actually see what they're doing. But I mean, this team has been good, and like you said, continue building on it next year, and they should be really good coming into the Catholic 7.
And I think they said, you know, Denny, just one thing right before you ask our next question here. Tiger Woods always says, what separates the good from the bad is doing the exact same thing over and over and over again. It's called consistency.
All right, well, transition to the women's side, where the inaugural season has been less than kind. But they have shown a lot of growth through the season. Tell me what the biggest improvement has been for the ladies and what we can look forward to next season.
Well, this season, the women's have a deceptively strong schedule. Because when you look at Loyola Maryland, they were 4-5 before the game, but they were still ranked 20th, and they lost 17-2. So the problem is that their schedule has been really tough, and in their first season, they haven't had, like Tuke said, there hasn't been a lot of consistency. They are better scoring. They have better scoring in the second half, and they just need to get a little bit more offensive output. I mean, they need to focus on the good, not focus on the bad, because what will happen is the good will start to come, and they'll start to win some games.
That's a perfect segue, Jason. You mentioned the good, the bad. I'm going to give you the good, bad, and the ugly. The good for this team so far this season has been Claire Costanza. I mean, she has been fantastic. She's been the master of her domain for this Marquette women's lacrosse team this season. 13 goals, 21 assists. Her, much like Connor Gately, the offense kind of has run through her. That's good for 34 points. And she's really been the catalyst for this offense this season. You take a look at the bad. They're really bad. I mean, they're 2-12. That's pretty bad, but they have been outscored 207. Look at this, 207-90 this season. That's a difference of 117 goals. That's bad. And the ugly, they've lost 10 straight games. They're kind of getting blown out of the water in these matches as well. But again, Rome wasn't built in a day. They'll be fine. Just give them some time.
Well, that's all the time we have, and I'd be remiss if I did not acknowledge this is Tuke's last show here, last segment. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Now let's send it back to Mike and Sean.
When we come back, men's and women's tennis, whom are well on their way to the Big East Conference tournaments. Find out how they did in their tune-ups this past weekend. Marquette men's golf traveled to Glenview, Illinois to compete in the Kemper Intercollegiate Tournament hosted at the prestigious Glen Club. The Golden Eagles finished in the middle of a 14-team tournament. They were led by juniors Adam Chester and Nick Nelson. The Golden Eagles used this tournament as a tune-up for the Big East Tournament, which is April 28th through the 30th.
Women's tennis had a pair of conference games this past weekend to wrap up the regular season. The Lady Golden Eagles took on Louisville and Cincinnati. On Saturday, Marquette headed to Louisville to take on the Cardinals. They left Kentucky with a sour taste in their mouth from a lost 5-2 decision. Highlights from Marquette's side were the doubles team of Anna Pimienta and Erin Giebs. They won 5-4 at the number 2 doubles spot in a match that did not finish. Rocio Diaz and Allie Dawson posted MU's lone 2 points with wins in their respective singles matches.
Marquette women's tennis took on the Cincinnati Bearcats in Cincinnati. After losing the doubles point, Marquette climbed back into the competition, eventually beating the Bearcats. The bottom 3 spots for the women turned in big results as the top 3 struggled against the Bearcats in the singles rounds. Marquette now looks to the Big East tournament where they will face the Bearcats again.
Women's tennis has earned themselves the 8th seed in the Big East tournament. Looking at the bracket here, Marquette will face 9 seed Cincinnati Thursday. Should they win, they will stay in South Florida and take on the number 1 seed Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Regardless of the outcomes, the championship tennis match will be held on Sunday, the 21st. Men's tennis wrapped up the regular season at home this weekend, playing a pair of games.
The Golden Eagles began the weekend on Friday at the Hellfair Tennis Stadium, taking on rival DePaul. There's a beautiful picture of the lovely scoreboard inside the stadium where we're going to watch the #1 doubles Dan Mamelot and Vukasin Tefanovic take on DePaul's 1 doubles. First point starts off rough as Mamelot has a hard time returning the serve. Blue Demons again with the serve. This time Tefanovic will be able to return that right there. And then the shot is skied by Mamelot, but that's going to fall just inside the out-of-bounds lines for a point Marquette. Vukasin and Dan both celebrating, and Tefanovic with the serve. Mamelot smashes a return, and DePaul's return would go into the net. Vukasin Tefanovic once more with the serve over the net, but DePaul would have trouble returning that one as Mamelot and Tefanovic would take the point. One more serve, as you see the graphic come in there. Marquette would take the overall match 5-2. Tefanovic and Mamelot both contributing to that winning score.
In the last match of the regular season, the men's squad huddled together, hoping for one last home victory against Wright State. Singles going on here between MU's James Stark and Wright State's Dan Hyman. Stark there sneaks one past Hyman. Then he plays some side-to-side action. Hyman can't keep up. Stark heating up, but Stark will slip up here as he hits the net on the return. And after wearing down Hyman, Stark will eventually defeat the Wright State player 6-1, 6-7, 6-0. Moving on to #1 singles, it's Dan Mamelot taking on Hayden Joblin. Mamelot will sneak one over the net, and Joblin hits the low ball too far. Point Mamelot. Off the serve, Mamelot can't control the return. Point Joblin. Mamelot again on the serve. The two go back and forth before Joblin picks the soft shot to get the point over Mamelot. Mamelot would lose, but Marquette would win the overall match in a 4-3 decision. Talking about the rare loss for Mamelot is head coach Steve Roadcap.
Dan is really tough to beat on this court, so we need to make sure that kid gets recognized for a great effort that he put up against Dan. Anytime that I think what's really exciting and special about Dan is Dan always puts the team first and not himself first. And when we won that 4th point, Dan was excited for, I think, a little bit for Pepper, but more importantly for the entire team. He would take a loss if it meant the team winning any day of the week. And when your best player and one of your best leaders on the court is willing to do that, you have a pretty special player.
After the tight wins this past weekend, Marquette now turns their heads to the Big East tournament. The men have earned a 4 seed within the tournament, which will be held in South Bend, Indiana, on the campus of Notre Dame. Marquette will start their run at a championship facing off against the Georgetown Hoyas at 11 a.m. Friday morning. Now we will see what our analysts have to say about the tennis teams. Denny?
Thanks, Sean. This has been a fantastic season for Marquette Athletics, and I've enjoyed bringing it to you alongside Jacob Born, our insider for tennis with the Marquette Tribune. And they have an interesting situation right now as they're heading into the Big East tournament on the men's side. What do they have to do to bring it home?
Well, yeah, the men's team is currently riding a 4-game winning streak, and they've won 5 of their last 6. So what's really good about the men's team is that they're coming in with some momentum. And that DePaul win was big. I mean, Cam Teherani, it was in a 3-set match, and he was down 5-6. He battled back and ended up winning in a 7-6 match on a beautiful lob shot. So the way that they got the win against DePaul, and then the way they got against DePaul, it was fantastic. And then coming into the Big East tournament, the doubles are really where it's at because Dan Mamelot and Vukasin and Tefanovic, they are very good together. They're 18 and 10 in this time on doubles, and so they've really done well. Same with Collins and Teherani. They are what's going to be able to make Marquette get some momentum building up. And then going into singles play, Dan Mamelot, Tefanovic, and Cam are the big leaders on the team. They're able to get some big wins, and if they're able to do that, they're going to be able to take care of business against Georgetown and then face a really tough Notre Dame team.
Transitioning to the women now, as they also begin their quest for Big East title, they play a familiar foe in Cincinnati, who they beat less than a week ago, 4-3. What do they have to do to bring home a title back to Milwaukee?
Well, you talked about it. The draw of getting Cincinnati is very favorable for them because they know what their opponents like and what the tendencies tendency are. And so that 4-3 win, it really came down to the singles play. And that's where they're going to have to excel in the Big East tournament altogether. Singles hasn't always been their strong suit, but if they're able to win the singles, it'll be great. What's going to be tough is facing the #1 seed Notre Dame, because they played them on March 24th, and they lost 1-6. And that lone point came in the #6 spot on singles. So they're definitely going to have to bring their game not only to singles, but to doubles play as well. Hopefully, if they're able to get past Cincinnati again, they're able to put a tough spot off in Notre Dame and be able to come away with a victory.
That's why this guy's the best. Jacob Born, everybody. Sean and Mike, send us home.
Thank you, Denny. We're coming to the end of the school year.
But there are still plenty of athletic events coming up. Men's and women's tennis have their conference tournaments this weekend.
Women's lacrosse heads on the road to play Syracuse and Notre Dame on the 21st and 27th.
And men's soccer takes on DePaul Sunday the 28th, 10 a.m. in a home game. Thanks for tuning in to the Golden Eagle Sports Report for the final time this school year.
Thanks to our analysts Deny Gallagher, Jacob Born, and David Tukesbrey. For my co-host Sean Owens, I'm Mike Cianciolo. For the last time this semester, good night, Marquette.